I just want to take a moment and go through a couple of the app problems. In this video number 5, if you haven't tried it yet, try it and then come back and check out this video. I'm not going to go over every single detail, but just highlight a couple things. So for number 5, if you get your data into 2 lists, for part A, it's just asking you to calculate the mean and standard deviation of the prices. So you can do that with your one variable stats, right? So you have your data in your lists, stat, calc, one variable stats, L1, no frequency list, right? There's 2 lists, but one's not a frequency, right? So no frequency list, calculate, and then just remember, so your mean is X bar, but then just remember the standard deviation is the sigma X, right? So the little circle with kind of the tail up top with the X, that is your standard deviation. So do that for both A, part 1 and 2. For part B, I had mentioned, or I had shown in a previous PowerPoint, for B part 1, it simply says calculate the correlation coefficient. So what you need to pay attention here, this is actually an older problem. So previously in past years, you've been given information like this. So I want you to ignore that and just calculate the correlation coefficient. That's just R, right? So calculate R, and once again, that's just with your calculator. Okay, so I'll run through that process here in just a moment, but I want to highlight just a couple other things on this question. So comment on the relationship. Remember, comment on the relationship, that is the strength and direction. You say those 2 things, you should be okay. Right. Finding the equation of the line of best fit, we'll do that with the calculator when we run our linear regression. And then again, these types of questions, you're just plugging something in to this equation. So think about what value you're given, in this case 1992, that is your X list, and then your Y's would be 2002 price. So you're plugging in 2060 cents for X and evaluating that for part D. And then part E is just kind of thinking about, okay, so which of these sets of variables don't necessarily match? And ones to kind of point out to you would be the roles. So think about why I might highlight the roles for part E, or the coffee, right? Which one of these sets of data you wouldn't maybe want to include in the correlation coefficient to maybe get a better accurate correlation coefficient. Okay, so back to part B? Yeah, part B, and actually calculating R, that is going to give us part C as well. So when I do part B, that same screen I get is going to give me part C as well, if you remember that. Okay. So at this point, you have your data in your calculator already. So you need to go to stat and then calculate. So again, stat, I scroll over to calculate, linear regression, and then again, L1, L2, no frequency list, and then calculate. Now, remember, my screen shows me A, B, R squared, and R. So those are the 4 things that you should see on your screen. If you don't see all 4 of those things, remember, you need to hit second and then 0. So second and then button 0 takes you to the catalog. You need to scroll all the way down to where it says diagnostics on. It's going to scroll. We're still scrolling. Still have time. We're still scrolling. Almost there. Diagnostics on. This is something you shouldn't have to do every time. But this option, diagnostics on, hit enter. Hit enter again, and it'll say done. And now if you run your stat, go over to calc, linear regression, go back through the calculation, and again, you should see those 4 things on your screen at this point. Right, so those 4 things, we actually only use 3 of them, and together those 3 will answer part B and part C for what we need. Right, so again, remember part B, we're ignoring this piece of information. Calculate the correlation coefficient. Well, we have it now. It is this. So having that written down as 0.672. 4, 6, 5, so on, rounding to 3 sig figs, 0.672. That is R. So then remember the comment, strength and direction. It's positive. Positive. All right, positive I can spell. So positive, and then remember it's the guidelines. I would say if you said moderate, that would be okay. Weak to moderate would be probably appropriate for 0.672. Either of those would be fine, right? So if you said weak or moderate, you would not have to say both of those. If you said it's a positive, moderate correlation, or moderate positive or weak positive, either of those would be okay. And then remember for part C, it's these A and B values that give you your line of best fit, right? So what I would do is I would write down A, write down the unrounded answer. So that's 0.5879901, so on, so on. B, do the same thing, 1.045095, so on. And then when you write your actual equation, then round to 3 sig figs. So y equals 0.588x, and then b is positive, so plus 1.05. So that would be rounded to 3 sig figs. Okay, so I'm going to leave the rest of that one up to you, and you'll be able to grade it later next week.